everyone, and welcome back to Women Power Impact, where we discuss women doing impactful work through nonprofits and organizations. Today, we're talking with Elizabeth Wasel, who is the Community Outreach Manager for Sojourner House, a nonprofit in the Pittsburgh area that helps mothers and families recover from addiction. Liz, thank you for joining us today. Can you introduce yourself and what role you played or have played at Sojourner House, and we'll let the conversation flow from there.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Wasel. I am now the Community Outreach Manager at Sojourner House. When I started there 16 years ago, I actually started as the Child Development Specialist. And about 8 months into that position, they asked me if I would take on the Volunteer Coordinator position also. So I did both for 13 years. And 3 years ago, I became the Community Outreach Manager for Sojourner House and Volunteer Coordinator.
Awesome. So that kind of leads us into the question of what drew you into the organization personally 16 years ago.
To be honest, my husband died and I needed a job, a full-time job. So I looked through the newspaper at the time, found Sojourner House was looking for a child development specialist. My degree is in business from Robert Morris, but most of my experience was child care. So I went and I applied. They called me for an interview, and there were 3 staff members, women, that were interviewing me. And the more they asked me questions, the more they told me about Sojourner House. So when I walked out after that interview, I said to God, I don't know what you want from me, but I absolutely want that job.
Wow. That's incredible to be able to just like love what you do and want to do that so much. And
Yes.
That also leads us into another question is what work I briefly touched on recovery from addiction, but can you like expand on what work the organization does?
We actually have 3 different programs. The very first one that started in 1991 is the Intensive Inpatient Drug and Alcohol Facility. That we can have 14 women and their children at one time. They have individual apartments, and while they are there for that 6 months, there are no TVs or phones in their rooms. They have life skills, parenting, and clinical groups. They get help we bring it inside and we take them to outside appointments for their mental health and their physical, and we also do that for their children. We have a program for the children that aren't in school. We have a child development specialist on site. So the kids are with her when the moms are in their groups. We have a transition program, which is 6 to 12 months. It's less strict, but they can go out and do things on their own, but they have to attend groups. And we help them go into their health appointments. If they have any legal appointments, we do that. And we help them to find jobs and housing for when they leave us. Then we have our permanent supportive housing, which now takes single fathers also. And that's dual diagnosis, mental health, substance abuse disorder, recovery. And we support them for their legal appointments, their medical appointments, get their kids started in school. We have tutors on site for them, the kids. So we're a good place. We're great programs to offer.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because I also feel like a lot of times when we hear about like rehab, especially like in the media or like recovery, we often don't pay attention to like the children as much. And so it's fantastic that the organization has like a really big focus on that. And you started in child development. So can you kind of explain how that was for you?
It was neat, I have to say, because I would get a child. Some of them were from birth. So they would stay for 6 months. So I would watch them grow. And then even if they were 3 or 4 school age, it was neat to see the changes in 6 months and how they learned to trust us and how they learned to trust mom again. Because the child's life before that was pretty up and down, and mom's life before that was up and down. So they both felt safe for that 6 months at least. And I always said at least for 6 months they were safe, because sometimes a mother goes back out, and other times they have 28 years clean, like some of our staff members. So yeah, that's how that worked.
That's fantastic. So how can people in the community kind of support these efforts? Because clearly they're so important and they have a major impact. So how do you like do community outreach and see like people in the community supporting you back?
I go to talk to groups. I will go to church groups. I go to women's groups, men's groups, whatever. I go and talk to them. But we can always use donations of new products, new clothes, or gently used. And always, of course, everybody can use cash donations because in our intensive inpatient, the insurance pays for their care, the women's care, but they all have individual apartments, which we provide the toilet paper, the dish liquid, all of those things, diapers, and some hygiene products also. So we can use, donations like that, cleaning supplies, and volunteering. We take volunteers. They can give me a call. I'm the volunteer coordinator also, and we take volunteers to do different things. We have 3 programs that have outside. In the spring, we do spring cleanup, fall cleanup, maintenance there. Then high school students come, we do walls. We can use volunteers across the board.
Fantastic. And we'll definitely make an effort to mention that and definitely highlight it. And this is actually something I thought of a little bit earlier that relates, but how has you've been there for 16 years. How has your perception of the recovery process kind of changed from when you initially started to what it is now?
I am from an area outside of Pittsburgh, McKees Rocks, and we have a little bit of a tough persona, I guess, a reputation. A lot of people, including myself, thought, okay, it just hits this area. And I come to learn that it hits all the areas. I've had people from Moon Township, Upper St. Clair, Sewickley. I've had lawyers, I've had teachers, I've had nurses. Nobody wants to be substance abuse disorder. Nobody wants that. Nobody at 2 years old screams, I can't wait to be an addict. Nobody. They don't want to take their children down that road. I've learned that. I've seen how the mothers work, how hard they want to get clean and stay clean for their children because they love themselves. Me personally, every time I see a new woman that comes in, I always tell her, please look in the bathroom mirror and say, I am worth this and there's nobody better than I am. They need to know that they are worth. So we empower them. The whole staff empowers them that they are important, that nobody is better. They deserve it. Yes, they have to work at it, but we will help them along the way. So that it changed. It changed my perception that, there are places that can help and women want help and they want to be moms.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I guess it kind of leads me to one of the other questions that we had planned for, which was how does it helping them achieve sobriety and the stability play into this larger narrative for women empowerment? Because we kind of hear we hear all of these struggles nationwide, globally. So how does the work that Sojourner House do right here in Pittsburgh have an impact on that larger narrative?
A woman is with us for 6 months in the intensive program. They can apply to go to the transition program, but they can come back. If they go and they relapse, they can come back. And every woman, when she leaves, takes something with her. So when she goes out and tells another woman that maybe have substance abuse disorder, she can say, hey, I learned this at Sojourner House. I know we are important. Yeah, we've, screwed up, but we are worth this. So if one woman takes that and tells another woman, it creates just a whole, chain. I had a woman email me last Christmas. And she said, hi, I am. And I wanted to wish Sojourner House a Merry Christmas and thank them. I am celebrating 30 years clean and sober. I was at Sojourner House December 1993. And wow. She has 4 kids and they're all professionals.
That's fantastic.
So she's telling me that, but can you imagine what she's saying at any meeting and what her kids are sharing? So they keep sharing. So that helps. Women help each other. They help to empower each other, and they learn that they are worth it.
That's incredible. And I love that so much because I think even like maybe like younger, like we hear all of these like stories in the media and we feel like we have to do something like huge to like just like completely fix everything. But like Sojourner House, like right here, it does like that program like 6 months and it doesn't feel like this forever thing, but that impact, like helping someone be sober for 30 years is like,
Yeah.
that's actually amazing. And I think it truly speaks to the power that like small scale things that we underestimate those and how they can actually have such a huge impact on like people's lives and expand from there. So I love that so much.
Yeah, and our women see like their school age kids that were flunking, and after 3 months at school through they go to the public school system, and we have tutors, and the moms see they're bringing home 80s, 90s, 100s, and moms are saying, and then we saying back to the moms, but you're encouraging them to do this. Yes, we have the tutors, but every other night when there's not a tutor here, you're encouraging, you're being a mom. Or we check apartments and we say, boy, your apartment looks so nice. They're learning or learning to cook and just so many things they didn't have a chance at.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This kind of leads to another question. How do you think, like just through your experience watching this like recovery process, how do you think like an everyday person can help like reduce stigma or like encourage someone who they see around them is experiencing a substance abuse disorder? Like, how do you recommend they approach that and help a person get help?
Educate themselves. Do not judge. You don't know why a person picked up in the first place. Some of them are sports injuries. I know a young man whose grandparents' house started on fire. And his grandma got out. He ran in to save his grandfather. He got third-degree burns over 80% of his body, so they put him on Oxycontin. Well, when they figured he was healed, they just took him off the Oxycontin. So he went and found heroin, and he overdosed. He died. A lot of our women have been molested. A lot. A lot of them come from domestic violence. So we don't know what a person walks. Just every day we don't know. That person on the bridge asking for money, we don't know where they came from. We don't know, you, I, or anybody else, when you pick up that first drink, if we have that tendency, if it's in our genetics to become an addict. And it touches all of us somehow. Might be the next door neighbor, but it touches all of us. Addiction is in everybody's family or one way or the other. And nobody wants to do that. That's a tough life. Tough life.
Yeah. I think like, especially the part of like not judging, because I think it's so easy, like, especially in our schools, like the way they educate us about like, say no to this or like, just like completely say no. And they're like, avoid peer pressure. And then there's kind of this like idea that if you take it up that like you're stupid or like that you're just like didn't listen or something. And I feel like it gets easy to get caught up in that. But I think it's like not judging because you don't know what made them start is like incredibly powerful.
Anxiety, smoke marijuana, anxiety's tough. I've lost a godson to an overdose, he started out with marijuana because his anxiety was crazy. His parents, and if you want to talk McKee's Rocks versus successful, his parents very successful. They loved him. It's just that mental health. It's just a tough struggle. It really is. And sometimes once a person starts, and there's things they do they're not proud of, it's hard to forgive themselves for what they did. If they robbed somebody or prostituted, it's hard for them to forgive themselves. And we have to teach them to learn to forgive themselves. And if the general public doesn't judge, it's a little bit better for them.
Yeah.
And we're all susceptible. We don't know what we're going to do 3 years down the line, 2 weeks from now. We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's like that's so true. Like I don't think there's anything more that I can say for that. But I guess like usually I always wrap up with like one question, but I wanted to ask you before that, like, is there anything else you want to add about this organization or the work that you do, or just something that you want to say that is important to you about it?
My women, when they walk in, I say, you could be my daughter, you could be my sister, you could be my mother, you could be my cousin, you could be my best friend. We don't know. So every woman that comes to Sojourner House is a very special woman, very special. And yeah,
Yeah.
I hope I helped.
No, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. And so the one question I always wrap up with is like, in general, what piece of advice do you have to young women, especially like it's a tough place and like how to navigate like people my age, like high schoolers and like college age students? What advice do you have after like all of your work you've done and everything?
My advice, and when I go to colleges to speak, I tell them, and I would tell your high school, don't beat yourself up over a C when you expected an A. Don't do that, and find somebody you can always talk to. Talk to them. Open up. And there, even if you have to call an online, just talk. Seek somebody out because talking helps. And don't feel that your problem is minor or don't feel stupid. Know that you are important, you are worth this, and somebody will help you if it's just to sit and listen to you. So don't ever think that you aren't important.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate the conversation you had. Like it, like the love that you have for the work that you do in Sojourner House is like absolutely inspirational. Like I think everybody wants to find like a job that feels like that calling to them the way you said, like, and like if I can find even something I love that as much, like half as much, then I would be happy. And that wraps up our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you back soon for the next episode of Women Power Impact.